we've made it to the last E3 press conference, EA Play. So EA Play was both good and bad. There were some good things, like some good game announcements, which I'll explain my highlights in this video, and there was some bad. Now, I've been watching E3 press conferences for nearly 15 years now, and this one was what I call very cringeworthy and awkward. Credit where credit due, Xavier Woods gave it his best. WWE superstar Xavier Woods was hosting EA Play this year instead of the usual Android CEO that they use. He gave his best, but the script was so cringeworthy and you could really see that he was like trying his best. So if you're going to watch the whole press conference, warning, that is cringeworthy. But here are some highlights. Unfortunately, EA didn't show many games, so more or less this is everything they did show is a highlight. So there's some big surprises, some that were already announced through leaks, and then just some more details on previously announced games. So let's check them out. So you might know recently EA purchased Codemasters, a producer and developer of many racing games, including Grid, Dirt, and the F1 games, and many more. Now this is interesting because let's just say EA's catalogue of racing games is pretty poor these days. Having not made a Burnout game in a long time except for Burnout Paradise Remastered, their Need for Speed series is what I call a very bumpy hill of very ups and very lows. So they really needed something. So having purchased Codemasters gives them a chance to add a lot of racing games to their catalogue, and also having the budget of EA should help Codemasters add extra polish to all their racing games. That we have to wait and see. Now, first up, what they've decided to bring out is Grid Legends. Now, I really enjoyed the first Grid, having played the arcade one as well, but how this does, I kind of fell off, and it's very confusing. The grid tiles, after you had Grid 1, Grid 2, and then some other weird subtitles there, and it kind of got lost. I didn't really hear people talk about those, and I totally forgot they existed till I checked. So Grid Legends seems interesting because they've added some new classes of cars. Hopefully it keeps up like the good damage engine it had before, and still kind of like in between semi-realistic but arcadey feel is what I'm kind of hoping for. And the other thing I'm looking forward to is if they bring back any of the modes. There was like a random track generator number 2 that people were really talking about at some point but seem to have forgotten about, so if that makes it come back. The big thing they're pushing here, which is kind of not what I'm after in a racing game, but I can see that some people might like the appeal, is the story mode. Now, they're using the technology similarly used by, they used to film The Mandalorian, which is like having actors on set but having like the scenes projected on the screen around them so the actors can see instead of green screen, which, hey, is cool. A little bit weird for a racing game. So they've got all these actor racers to act in scenes for Grid Legends to look like they're in the game. I don't know, I just want to get in their cars and race around. But you know what, people who like the story mode might enjoy this, but if anyone's played a Need for Speed game in previous years, know any story modes, cutscenes and stuff range between cringeworthy bad or really bad that it's hilariously funny. So we'll have to see how this one goes. So I'm looking forward to more racing games, so I'm not complaining. On to our next game. Next is a game I'm really looking forward to, Lost in Random. Now this looks a bit like American McGee's Alice in Wonderland game, sorry. So this has a very Tim Burton-esque art style to it. It just looks beautiful. It's really beautiful, if not a little bit creepy. So you have a main character and they have a friend called Dicey. They're traveling through this interesting world. I don't want to give you too many spoiler stories. Spoilers? Spoiler stories. Spoilers. No, story spoilers. I'll leave that in because I got my tongue well twisted there. You know, it's Tim Burton. It's very twisted. So this has a great look to it. I like the idea of the combat. It's not quite like action combat like it was in American McGee's Alice games, but you kind of have like this action combat mixed with like you build a deck full of cards with extra special abilities. It's kind of hard to explain, but when you see the gameplay footage, you kind of get what I mean. So it definitely looks interesting. It has this great look to it, a world that you want to explore. It's really eerie, but looks so polished. Like someone went we've got this great indie game. This is an EA original. This great indie game. How can we help? EA goes, here's some money, make it polished. And it's really what is great, because indie games usually have these great stories and platforms, but sometimes let down by like lack of budget or lack of money, unfortunately, if they've been too ambitious. But this is the type of ambitious game that has got that money to back up and give it that extra polish. And I feel like they've done a lot of work. And the developer seems very passionate about the game as well, which always helps when the developer is very keen on the characters and the story and the atmosphere. So this one could be really good, and EA has been on a roll for helping indie games be good. So even though EA is normally the evil corporation of America, this case they're doing quite well with the indie games. So I've got my fingers crossed that they keep helping these indie games do some great games, and I hope they're getting a good deal of the side as well, the indie developers. So because they work really hard and they make some of the most amazing games you can see. So, and yeah. So let's check out the next game. Now, a lot of the things that were in the EA Play presentation were kind of just updates for games we already knew about. But this, I pulled this one out in particular to show you as a highlight, because this was a surprise. We all had seen the Battlefield 2042 trailer, storms, massive battles, over 100 players all battling out, tanks and wingsuits and everything. It was insane. It was amazing. Yeah, there was a Die Hard 4 reference in the trailer as well originally, and that was awesome. You know, that game just reeks of awesomeness. This is finally a Battlefield game we're looking forward to that actually adds something new and doesn't retread the same old history as always. But what was interesting here, EA and DICE threw a curveball. They were like, yeah, we know you're excited about Battlefield 2042, but what if we did something you would never expect? And they did. Battlefield Portal. Now, Battlefield Portal is part of Battlefield 2042, and it's part of the multiplayer mode. But what they've done here, and they let you customize it all as well, they've taken things from Battlefield 1942, Battlefield 3, Battlefield Bad Company 2, which in my opinion is the best Battlefield, and Battlefield 2042, and you can mix and match whatever. You want defibrillators versus knives, you want soldiers from 2042 versus the Nazis from 1942, why not? You could have bomb disposal drones against a tank, 20 bomb disposal drones against one tank. You can mix and match. It doesn't matter, you can mix and match the time periods, the weapons, the vehicles, and there's some maps coming back from classic games. And I saw 1 or 2 maps from Bad Company 2, which made me very happy because that game is amazing. So I've got real high hopes for this. And then that's it for Battlefield 2042, all I've got to say, because that's all there is. You can watch the trailer. It's hard to explain all this mixture of stuff, but it's so good. But on to our next and very last surprise that EA gave us. So please, come this way. Right, for our last surprise, there's just something really scary and spooky. For his door, I just heard a noise and I don't know what it is. So, why don't you go first through that door and we'll see what treat EA's left us. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe before you enter the darkness. And remember to leave us a comment if you survive on what your favourite highlight was from the EA Play. Thank you very much for joining us, and remember to stay safe.